Today, I'd like to conclude our journey through the paradise of Dante. We've been looking at the different parts of the Divine Comedy. We've taken a look at the structure of it. We've gone through hell, the Inferno, the Purgatorio, and now let's take a trip to paradise. Always a nice place to go to. Paradise is based on the four cardinal virtues and the three theological virtues. So, just as we've seen in the Inferno and the Purgatorio, we've seen the sense of the vices and the battle with the vices. So now we are in the level of the virtues, where people have overcome those vices, and now they are on this journey, this heavenly journey, and they are embracing the virtues as the path to paradise. The seven lowest spheres of heaven deal with the cardinal virtues of prudence, fortitude, justice, and temperance. The deficiency in the virtues is the moon. The moon is inconstant. And when we are not as skilled in practicing the virtues, when we're just starting to try to master the virtues, we have that back and forth where, one day we're good with the virtues and we're doing well and we're having a lot of fortitude and our temperance is good and, we're doing so well with our sense of justice and prudence. And then the next day there's a little slippage. And it's like the moon, the phases of the moon. It's inconstant. We don't have that ability to be consistent in the practice of and it takes time to master a virtue, obviously. And so, in a way, what are we lacking when we look at that picture? We're lacking the fortitude, the courage to stick to the virtue in spite of those obstacles that are going to come, those difficulties that we are all obviously going to face. Mercury. Mercury is symbolic of somebody who is ambitious, somebody who seeks glory. And that person, of course, is lacking justice. Because what are they doing? They're seeking glory for themselves. And justice is a virtue where we are trying to establish a good pattern, a fair pattern for everyone. Justice, of course, is never just about ourselves and trying to acquire justice for ourselves. It's justice for all, especially those people who are oppressed, those people who are taken advantage of by those who are exercising the power. So Mercury would be symbolic of that type of person who is just so ambitious. Venus would be symbolic of the lover. And the love, in terms of Venus, is directed towards someone other than God. So there's a lack of temperance. And certainly there are many people in our life that we are going to love other than God. But in the Venus state, you're sort of leaving God out of the equation. You're a great lover, you care for other people, but are you really, having a love for God? Or is it something that you are loving other people just for that pleasure that is involved with love, and you're leaving God totally out of the equation? We know, of course, that when we are loving others, when we're loving our sisters and brothers, we are loving Jesus in them. But when we leave God totally out of the equation and we're just seeking pleasure in love, then there is something that is deficient. Obviously, in that we're somewhat on the right track. We're loving, but we need to master that sense of temperance and to love in the proper way. And then the sun would be like that sense of the prudent. Wisdom leads the way for the other virtues. So the sun burns hot and can show us the right way. It gives us the light to determine, well, what is the prudent thing to do? Do I have the wisdom to do what is right in my life and follow what I should be following? Mars is the man of fortitude. and the person who dies for the cause of Christianity, the person who is so committed to the faith that they are willing to sacrifice their own life for the faith. Jupiter contains the kings of justice. So all of those kings who are looking at different situations, they have to make rulings, and they do it in a just and fair way. Saturn contains the temperate, and the model for Saturn is the monks, those who follow that sense of giving up other things, other worldly pleasures. They're giving up their food, their sleep, they're giving all of that up for the sake of devoting their lives totally to God. And that would be symbolized by Saturn. So these different mythical figures from Greek lore and legend, those are embodied as part of the Divine Comedy in terms of these virtues. The eighth sphere is then we get into the theological virtues, or the crowning virtues, and they would be faith, hope, and charity. And in that eighth sphere, we have the church triumphant. We have the perfection of humanity. We have humanity cleansed by sin. We have people who are believing in God, believing in Jesus. They're demonstrating the theological virtue of faith. They're people of courage who have persisted. They don't give up when there are obstacles, so they're people of hope. And they're people of true love who love others in the right sense and who love God. The ninth circle then becomes the primum mobile, and that's where the angels dwell. So in this ninth circle, now we progress through all of the virtues, and we are in this wonderful world that is the world of the angels, the world of a love for God, the messengers of God, those who assist God in the mystery of salvation. And then we journey through the prima mobile to the empyrean. The empyrean is the essence of God. And there we have Dante conversing with Thomas Aquinas, with St. Bonaventure, with St. Peter, and with St. John. So we have the great doctors of the church, Aquinas and Bonaventure, who their theology very much influenced Dante. And we have the great saints, St. Peter, of course, the first pope, and St. John, his faithfulness there at the cross, his gospel, his sense of being that special companion of Jesus. St. John is always described in many ways as the beloved disciple, with the sense of this intimacy with Jesus. And then the very ending of the Divine Comedy is this wonderful encounter with the Triune God, this encounter that is described as an encounter with light. So we are completely drawn to the light. All of the sin has been cleansed out of us. We've overcome all of the vices, all of the temptations, and we have mastered the virtues. We've been in dialogue with the great saints who have helped us. We are now enjoying that, what we call the beatific vision, the sense of love of God. So as we look back on a journey through the Divine Comedy, what do we see? We see really a symbolic journey of the life of all of us. We all face these challenges of these vices and overcoming these sins, overcoming these temptations in our life. And then when we master all of that and we have left all of that behind, the life of sin, and we've turned more to a life of embracing God, then we try to practice the virtues. And the virtues, again, bring us closer to God and closer to our sisters and brothers with a sense of justice, a sense of temperance and fortitude, and this wisdom that we acquire. And then finally, we get this direct encounter with our God. We've been purified from our sin, we've been cleansed, and now we are one with God. Certainly a beautiful vision that Dante has for us. And a vision that we can relate to because we are all on that journey towards what? Towards that sense of complete and total union with our God who loves us so much.